The in-person streaming university auditions are a perfect example of why a lot of people say that they're ready for the downfall of capitalism and they're ready to eat the rich, but they don't necessarily actually believe it. I think if you take one look at the discourse and the response, the comments, the response, and the tweets surrounding streaming university and surrounding the streamers who went to sign up and went to audition, it shows that there's a huge cognitive dissonance in our society, and it's going to take a long time, maybe several generations, before we're actually freed from the mentality of 9 to 5 work culture, celebrating in others' downfalls, and essentially feeding into late stage capitalism. I think a lot of people don't realize how much they've internalized late stage capitalism, the same way you can internalize misogyny or internalize racism. Most people in America are living with internalized late stage capitalism and also white supremacist or white hierarchy beliefs, whether they believe it or not. And as progressive as they may seem, and as much as they say they want to change the future, I feel like the response that I'm seeing online to the streaming university applicants has shown there's a huge cognitive disconnect between what society people say they want versus what happens when people actually try to create that society and the public response to it. And essentially, to put what I'm trying to say into layman's terms and explain this theory that I came upon, I'll just basically run down what I saw and what happened. So I did not attend Streamer University. I didn't apply this year. I did apply last year, but I didn't know that it was happening this year because I was really busy with work. But I found out about it by scrolling through my TikTok and scrolling through my For You page. But I also found out about it because I was seeing such a negative response to it. I was seeing such a negative response to the people who applied. And I thought that was so disheartening because, one, essentially, there were a lot of brown and black creators who applied to be streamers, and some of them, waited 4 days overnight. Some of them called out from work. Some of them, they put their all into it. As also, I want to say before I go any further that I forgot to mention it's also rooted heavily in an underlying current of anti-blackness, as is anything that deals with capitalism or imperialism. But there's a lot of anti-blackness surrounding the discourse of streaming university. But basically what I've been seeing online is there's been a lot of people on Twitter, Instagram comments, TikTok, commenting on the videos of the creators who applied and the creators who, I saw one creator who waited. He said that he went to the audition 4 days early, waited in line, and the audition got shut down, so he was a little upset about it. I saw a lot of response to it being like, you should put that energy into applying into an Indeed application. You should put that energy into working a 9 to 5. You should put that energy into calling up jobs. Or I even saw some comments saying like, y'all should have this energy when it comes to voting or when it comes to like political and social issues. And I feel like, and also it was trending on Twitter too. I think a lot of people were saying how anybody who went to this, who put their all into it, were essentially, it was a dumb idea, or they like they're too old to be waiting in line and too old to be doing this, too old to be doing that. And it was really like, it was like 90% of the comments who were just rejoicing in the fact and, mocking and kind of reveling and experiencing schadenfreude, which is the delight in the harm of others or the delight in the misfortune of others, from seeing young black people who are trying to create an alternate path for themselves be upset that they didn't get an opportunity, or even if they didn't post about not getting in, even if they were just posting about, hey guys, I'm auditioning for Streamer University, I put this, I called out from work to be here, shaming them for going after an opportunity. Now, this is very nuanced what I'm going to explain. So we have to see it from multi layers. But the reason why I say it's rooted in like internalized late stage capitalism and anti-race and racism and anti-blackness is because I feel as though, yes, streaming university is a big opportunity. I saw comments saying you should take this time to apply to a real 4 year university. You should apply to a real school, apply to a real job, go on Indeed towards these creators. And I was just reading all the comments. And back to what I was saying about the reason why this is rooted in all these things is because one, streaming university is a big opportunity. I don't think you realize that streamers can make millions, and not just like the big streamers, but if you do successful on on apps like YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok. I don't think TikTok. I don't know if they pay as well, but social media in general is a career field. I think we've seen that proven time and time again people who become millionaires from social media. And it's no longer just like a shot in the dark of like, yeah, well, this one person, like Kai Cenat is a millionaire, but everybody else isn't going to be a millionaire. I think that's sort of defeatist thinking. There's actually a lot of small creators who maybe you don't know the name of who are making six figures from social media. But that's not the point of this video. The point is to say that it's just like any other career. You don't see people shaming tech bros or white startup founders who are investing their all, or when I say investing their all, dedicating their time into building something, right? Or taking an opportunity, calling out of work to work on their startup. And I think the same could be said for Shim University. I'm not saying that it's going to be, I'm not saying it's going to be life changing for everyone, but it's a huge opportunity to grow your platform and make an alternate way outside of the 9 to 5 that you're working. And I feel as though we've been so conditioned to believe that the traditional structures and the traditional routes are more of a safe bet, to the point where it's essentially like boomer language that's being used of, well, you should know better, you should go to a 4 year university, you should know not to call out, you should know not to do this, or you're too old to be doing this, you're too old to be chasing your dreams, which is just such a it's so deeply flawed, because we say that we want a society where we don't have to work 9 to 5s, we don't have to slave away and be a clog in the machine and give our labor to these major corporations who don't care about us, who don't care whether you die because they'll replace you the next day, literally at work, and don't care about you as a person or just benefiting and exploiting your labor. But when we see a rise of something like streaming, it's filled with so much doubt. It's filled with so much, you can't do this. It's filled with so much, well, that's just a 1 in a million person. That's just Kai Cenat. That's just another big streamer. Like, that's just Tylil. That's just whoever. Or even on social media, if you say like, that's just Quinlan Blackwell or YouTube, that's just, there's only one. It becomes this sort of shot in the dark of there can only be one. And everybody else, you're not going to make it. You might as well just take the safe bet and stay at your 9 to 5. So I think the issue is that people are trying to make it seem as though those who took an opportunity and took a chance on themselves, literally, I think anybody who signed up to go to the streaming university auditions took a bet on themselves. They took a bet and said, hey, I'm going to call out of work today because I think I can make a future in streaming. And I'm pretty sure that they're not just calling out of work. Pretty sure they're not just calling out of work without any prior streaming experience. I'm pretty sure anybody who's physically dedicating their time to showing up and being at a place, going to an interview, has streamed at least once, has posted on social media at least once, has tried to make this dream happen for themselves. And mainly it's all been Black, brown, people of color who are in these lines. I didn't see a lot of white streamers in those lines. And it made me so sad because I could see in the posts the not desperation, but the hope in their eyes. I could see them feeling like this is an opportunity that I'm taking on myself. This is something that I want to pursue. And it's one step closer to maybe getting an opportunity where I can grow my platform and I can leave my 9 to 5 and I can start my own business, because streaming should be looked at as a gateway. Streaming is not something that you're going to do forever, or it could be something you're going to do forever. The industry hasn't been around long enough to know whether it's going to have longevity or not. But I do think it is going to have longevity because it's tech based. But even if you're a streamer or somebody who's getting into social media who doesn't have longevity, social media is a funneling tool where you build your platform and use it to direct to whatever you're interested in. If you want to start a small business, if you want to start a nonprofit, if you want to start any sort of avenue of revenue, social media is literally that direct platform and lift to give yourself to start that. It can help you fund your business, one, for making money from it, but also if you're not making money or monetizing from it, it can help direct eyes to you. So it's really crazy to me to see that everybody's commenting, oh, these people who waited in line, they should have dedicated their time to applying to Indeed, or they should have invested that in a 4-year university, because that is investing into yourself. Taking a risk and taking a chance on yourself and taking one day to apply to something is investing to yourself. But I feel like it's not taken serious because it's a career that a lot of young Black and brown people have built up from themselves, from the ground up, turning their phone on and just going live. But careers like startups and Fortune 500s are taken serious because it's young white people who took a chance on themselves. And when I say took a chance, obviously a lot of them have investors and seed funding and parents with money who are investing into this. So how much of a chance is it really when it comes to that world? But it's taken serious, and there's movies like The Social Network made about it and all these different discourses surrounded praising it because it's seen as more honorable. And I think the way that we position streaming and careers that are created by young Black people is looked down on as, well, that's a joke. Why would you even take the time to do that? Why would you even take that serious? And it's not just white people saying it, it's other Black people too, which I think that I'm going to get into the next video about elitism and people who say that they're progressive and they want change and they don't want to work for the system. They don't want to work for white people anymore. But yet when we see Black people trying to go out and build something for themselves. Okay, this is my part 2 because I ran out of time in the last one, but this is the part 2. But as I was saying, I think there's a lot of shaming and elitism that happens surrounding conversations of industries that were built by Black people and built independently without funding, just on the backs of your creativity. And yes, there is downsides to streaming. Yes, it is long hours and there's so much that goes into that world. But there's also downsides to working 9 to 5s and working for corporations, hating your boss, hating your managers, experiencing microaggressions every day from your coworkers, doing things that maybe you don't want to do or love to do, but you have to do to pay the bills. Why, if there's an alternative solution like running your own business, because streaming is running your own business, social media is running your own business, why, if there's an alternative solution, is that shamed so heavily? Why is that looked down on when people try to pursue these other careers? And I'll answer that question. It's because we've internalized a lot of capitalistic structures. We've internalized, oh, well, that's just social media. That's not going to get you far. Like, why would you even think that you have a chance at this? Why would you think that you have a shot at that? And I think a lot of that obviously is rooted in self. I think a lot of people who are heavily criticizing maybe doubt that for themselves. Like they're maybe afraid to take the leap and make a transition, or they maybe doubt that, they probably really believe in their head that it's possible to make 6 figures from social media or build a business from social media, and that it's worth it. They probably believe that it's genuinely worth it to put hours and years into a system that's already built as opposed to building your own system. And that's what I mean by internalized late stage capitalism, where people genuinely say and believe, this is not something I even want to try my hand at because I know that there's safer routes and I know what it can get me, which, yeah, that may be the safer route, but what is wrong with betting on yourself if you do truly want to build a new future where you don't have to rely on corporations? Why is that looked at as so crazy as opposed to people who are building startups and building foundations. And I guess the counter argument to that is, well, they're not investing in themselves, they're investing in Kai Cenat. And when I say investing, I mean time and energy. I don't mean money. I mean like people who showed up and waited. So yeah, I guess the counter argument to that is like, well, they're not investing in themselves, they're investing in Kai. And I saw a lot of people saying like he's just using them for promotion and things like that. The same way that you would show up to an interview, you would buy clothes for an interview, you would buy dress clothes to assimilate and have to fit this idea of what a professional looks like, and you'll do your hair and buy things for your hair. Maybe if you're a woman, you're forced to wear makeup to an interview. The same way that you're investing your time, you're spending gas to get to that interview. It's the same exact process. It's just people are doing it for an avenue that is different and hasn't been done before and is honestly quite literally looked down upon. So I do think there's a lot of elitism, especially around the conversations of like, well, y'all don't have this energy when it comes to voting. How do you know that the people in those lines didn't vote? There's so many microaggressions, and it's not even just coming from white people. I've been seeing some like elitist black people being like, y'all better have this energy at the polls and things like that. Why is it that when you see a line of black, brown, Asian, minority children, because it was a lot of children in those lines, but it was also some adults. There were adults too. Like there were people in their 30s and beyond in line for an opportunity and taking a chance on themselves. Why do you assume that they didn't go out and vote? Why do you assume that they didn't post about a issue that they care about, or do internalized community work? Why is it that anytime we see black people and people who come from backgrounds that are not wealthy engaging in something, the instant thing is, well, you better have this energy when it comes to this, this, and this? How do you know they don't have that energy? How do you know about the work that they're doing in their community? We're so quick to label and try to box people in anytime we see them taking a risk or betting on themselves, that they're somehow, well, you're doing this, but you better have this energy when it comes to the real serious things. How do you know they're not working on the real serious things? Why is it so stigmatized? Where is this narrative coming from? And I know where exactly this narrative is coming from. It's this sort of old school respectability politics of you can't be both. And a lot of people can be both. I think most people who are in line, they're socially conscious and aware just by their existence, just by their being. And a lot of people were posting. So it's not even, a lot of people were talking about serious issues, like when I went on their pages and checked them out to see like who was in line. So we need to stop archetyping people, and we need to stop shaming industries and roles that were built for us to break free of capitalism, and especially our ways that a lot of brown and black people are breaking free of capitalism and running their own business. Oh, and then the last thing I say is I even saw some people saying like they're crying about not getting in, or they're crying about they're doing all this because they don't know what real hard work is. And I think that is so ignorant to say, because if you're in line and you're doing all that for an opportunity, you know what real hard work is. And I'm pretty sure everybody in that line had 9 to 5s while also streaming on the side. They know what real hard work is. They're also a black person in America. They know what real hard work is. So I think it's just so crazy we always try to archetype and put people into these little boxes. My phone is dying, so I can't really talk too much, but I'll make another video. But I'm interested to know what you guys think. I think this is a huge problem, and it spans so many different, it's very layered and it's very nuanced. But ultimately, I just want to say, if you applied, don't feel ashamed that you tried to do something and you tried something new that was maybe non-conventional.